For our lead into the intelligence assessment with Kevin Shipp. How are you tonight?
Jason, good to see you.
Good to see you too, Kevin. I think a lot of Crowdsource the Truth viewers are kind of upset today, and I understand where they're coming from. When I saw Nancy Pelosi's press conference this morning, it was not, look, obviously we support President Trump. We want him to win in 2020. We don't want him to get impeached. But beyond the individuals holding these offices, it was so disturbing to me to see this corrupt process being foisted on the American public, and the fact that a huge percentage of people are buying it and rooting for it. It's kind of making me nuts, Kevin.
Yeah, I can understand that totally, Jason, because it is an absolute sham. Going all the way back to the transcript, which has no evidence of the allegations that they're making with stacking false witnesses. I mean, this is a kangaroo court being played out in front of the American people. And of course, those that watch the mainstream media, CNN, MSNBC, and others that are fed information from their corporate overlords down to their editors, if they're watching that stuff, those are progressive messages that are being put out, and they have no problem at all twisting the truth. So we're seeing a kangaroo court playing out before our eyes, a violation of the Constitution, and people are sitting back either frustrated that they can't do anything about it, that Adam Schiff is not held accountable, or others watching CNN or other things are buying this absolute garbage.
Yeah. It's really confusing to me that Adam Schiff is being allowed to do this. I'm surprised that nobody in the Senate or, there's not some procedure for the U.S. Capitol Police to prevent this kind of thing from happening. I meant to discuss this with Dr. Corsi, but it slipped my mind. Is it Kevin McCarthy, who is the Republican? He had a press conference after Nancy Pelosi, and I thought it was a very important press conference. He was talking about how Alexander Hamilton had warned us that this impeachment process was not to be trifled with, that it could be abused and used as a political tool. And it's not meant to be a reset button for the presidential election if we can accumulate, a sufficient number of people who don't like a particular president. It's got to have a crime before it can be invoked.
That's absolutely right. And I would remind people that Adam Schiff, on the record as the head of the Intelligence Committee, read an absolute lie about what was contained in that conversation with President Trump and the Ukrainian president. It was an absolute fabrication. Later on, he was caught doing it, and he said, it was just a parody, knowing darn well that he read that into the record, knowing darn well that's what the Democratic arm of the media, CNN, was going to put out, knowing darn well that's all of a lot of American people were going to see. And it was an unadulterated, bold-faced lie of which Schiff has been telling repeatedly in this kangaroo court. So people have to understand, not only is this a violation of the Constitution and what Schiff is doing with the kangaroo aspects of this, but it's based on an absolute lie that never took place. And people need to understand that.
Yeah, I've noticed it's a tactic of social engineering, where they've got a target, right? In this case, it's Donald Trump, and they want you to believe something about that target. Prostitutes urinated on a bed, he's abused the office of the presidency, whatever it might be. They just dogmatically repeat the thing they want you to believe, and it eventually moves you so far away from the facts of the matter that a debate can't even be had. As a matter of fact, I think they're doing it specifically to quash any kind of debate, because they get you so tangled up arguing about the fact that they're lying to you.
Yeah, and Jason, I have to tell you, back when I was with the CIA in the Cold War, and the Russians would lie and blame things on the U.S., and when people would visit, they'd have these fake towns, and it was constant lying and constant propaganda. I remember being so angry and incensed at what the Soviet was doing. Now I'm seeing that from my own media here in this country. And we're going to talk about this tonight, the progressive connections to all of this. And progressive basically is identical to Marxism and goes all the way back to Saul Alinsky, Hillary Clinton's mentor. And that's what this is all about. This is Donald Trump gets elected. He is for U.S. sovereignty, and he stands up completely against the globalist progressives. And that's why they're trying to attack him. And that's why they're trying to take him out. And Adam Schiff and others are progressives, i.e. Marxists and globalists. And that's what this is all about. It is an attempt by globalism to remove a president that is diametrically opposed to its goals.
It's a good thing we've got Donald Trump as president right now, because he's got an incredibly strong will. Whatever anybody might think about him personally, it's undeniable that the man has been under constant attack for the past 3 years in a way that, I mean, you know, he was always somewhat of a controversial figure, but really most people liked him when he was just on television. They wanted to get on his show. And I mean, that's got to be stressful, turning on the TV and so many, you know, negative false stories. I mean, like you said, regular people, when they know they're being lied to and certainly being lied about, it makes you agitated and angry, and it's just not a happy making thing.
Well, and only, at least in my view, only Donald Trump with his personality could withstand this kind of constant personal political attacks on him and his family. It is his personality that enables him to continue. Whether you like him, whether you don't like him, whether you like his past, whether you don't like his past, whether you like his tweets, whether you don't like his tweets, no other human being, especially political, that I have ever known, would have the ability to stand against this kind of onslaught.
Yeah, and you know, there's been a little bit of reporting about this, but I mean, Kevin, can you imagine the non-stop news cycle we would have if Donald Trump had made a disparaging comment about a 13-year-old child in furtherance of his political agenda? I mean, that woman, that I forgot her name, from Yale, that
Pamela
lawyer.
Kaplan,
Oh my God, what a reprehensible thing to do. This guy is a kid, 13-year-old. I mean, he's amazingly tall when these latest. I can't believe how tall he's gotten so quickly, but he's a child, literally.
Well, I looked at my wife when Kaplan was giving her testimony and the others, and I said, I guarantee you will find a connection with, and I'm not saying all gay people are bad at all. You know me, you know how I feel on that, but I am talking about the gay mafia. You'll find a connection to that. You'll find a connection to George Soros. And it turns out that Our Lady Pamela Kaplan is bisexual and taught a class against white privilege in America, and a form of multicultural diversity, which is another form of Marxist. And sure enough, she's connected all of that. And if you listen to her testimony, it wasn't an objective professor. It was an emotional lady hurling barbs at the president and then his son.
Exactly. And that's just exactly what we don't need here, is some emotional. I was talking to a friend of mine who was like, oh, witness testimony. I don't think that person understands what witness testimony is. This is just a bunch of partisan political hacks sitting there airing their grievances. And I mean, you've put this image in my mind of, like, I wasn't thinking about if this woman was heterosexual or bisexual. Anything sexual to do with this woman is, I might have to end the show. But
mind wash.
It was a horrendous display for her to attack Barron Trump in the way she did. And it wasn't like an offhanded comment, Kevin. It struck me as something that she had planned. And she was like, ooh, this is my moment. I'm going to talk about Barron and how she can't make his son a Baron and whatever. It was just disgraceful.
What a cheap trick. What a cheap trick. And I hope people watched George Washington University professor Jonathan Turley. He's probably, and I've been watching him for years, and as a matter of fact, Jonathan Turley took my case when I was suing the CIA for their cover-up, and Jonathan Turley took our family's case pro bono, with absolutely nothing to gain personally.
This was your lawyer?
This was my lawyer.
Oh, man.
One of my lawyers. I had three of them. Took my case pro bono, didn't even ask for a penny, stood up against the CIA's cover-up. He had a secret clearance, and the CIA blocked him from all of the unclassified information in our case. I talked to him over the phone. As far as I'm concerned, the man is a hero and a constitutional hero. He didn't have to take our family's case, and the CIA went after him because of doing that. But you've got a major law professor, well-known, that took a little family's case for free.
Wow, that's amazing. You know what? I liked this guy from watching him yesterday just because he was saying, hey, I didn't vote for Trump, I don't support Trump, but you guys have no evidence. And that's the way a lawyer and a legal process needs to be. His personal, I mean, look, there's a lot of reasons why somebody might personally disagree with or not like Donald Trump. I'm not going to debate that. That's his opinion to have. It's fine. But that doesn't mean that you can throw away the Constitution, that you can forsake everybody's opportunity to be presumed innocent until proven guilty. I mean, there's not enough outrage right now that Adam Schiff is just subpoenaing phone records from whoever he wants. There's no crime that's been identified here.
Talk about the surveillance state. Adam Schiff got the phone records for several people, including John Solomon, a journalist, and they don't see that as a constitutional felony, a violation of the Fourth Amendment. That's exactly what it is. Why aren't they marching in with flexicuffs and putting his arms behind his back and marching him out for a felony? It's just incredible.
That's my question. Like, at what point does a member of Congress do something on the floor of Congress that provokes the sergeant at arms to say, hey, wait a minute, you are going out now? Because I would have liked to have seen Adam Schiff have that happen. Now, Kevin, I've been remiss in my duties as a hype man, as a huckster, as a sales guy here, but we do have the sponsor-only version of the intelligence assessment with Kevin Shipp coming up in just 15 minutes, a little more than 15 minutes, and we've got a very special guest tonight. She's an incredible author, and she's been with us before.
Yes.
I had never heard of this person until you introduced me to her, and thank you for that. I'm talking, of course, about Diana West. She's an amazing author, and she's done incredible research into this subversive communist takeover that has been planned for decades. And I'm one of these people who, like, when I heard that, even just a couple of years ago, I said to myself, that sounds a little crazy. But when you start to listen to the facts and details that Diana lays out, it's just such a compelling argument, and her research is so impeccable and fact-based and evidence-backed. I'm really glad she's joining us again tonight.
Yeah, I agree, and I think she's a present-day author and a hero. And I can tell you, back when I was doing internal investigations in the CIA and Department of State was riddled with espionage and Russian intelligence officers that had penetrated the state, some of which I'm sure are still there today.
Wow.
So when I picked up Diana's book and started reading it and started interviewing her, I was like, right on, man.
Yeah, and so, I mean, there's a lot of people who think you get somebody like this dude Sondland or whoever from the State Department in there, and they're saying, I don't know why. People are trusting these government bureaucrats who they've never met, but they don't trust Donald Trump. And I'm not saying you should or shouldn't trust anybody. My attitude in general is I like to be trusting, but at the same time, I'm not leaving here with the door unlocked. I'm not loaning $10 to somebody on the street, hoping I'll see it again. There's a certain amount of skepticism we need to have. And how many employees are there in the U.S. government, Kevin? Hundreds of thousands?
Oh, goodness great. Well, there's in the CIA alone, and the exact amount is classified, but there's upwards of 20,000 just in the CIA alone. So, and then Department of State is massive. These are massive bureaucracies with, I don't know the exact figure, but I'm sure it's up in the hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, and maybe this is, I don't know, kind of a negative outlook, but I think it's difficult to imagine taking a pool of 100,000 people and saying, oh, I trust every single one of them. Nobody here would do any wrong to me. So I like to have a little healthy skepticism.
You know me, I'm skeptical of government down to my core. And I keep an eye on Donald Trump and his administration, but I can tell you this, I have never seen a president stand up against the shadow government and deep state and globalism in my entire life as Donald Trump is doing. And that's moved me over to his side and into his camp as a Trump supporter.
Yeah, and it's something that you've been saying, consistently since the beginning of the intelligence assessment with Kevin Shipp, which is now the longest running sponsor-only program on Crowdsource the Truth. So thank you for that, Kevin. And I think that your sentiments are being borne out by corroborating circumstances, as they say in the law field, because they wouldn't be going so hard after Donald Trump if he was a puppet of the deep state, the way some of his detractors describe him.
That's right.
I think they want him out of there because with each passing day, the drain has been pulled, but the swamp is so swampy that it's not quite getting down the pipes, and he's in there trying to shove it down. So we've got just a couple more minutes before we transition over to Patreon, and we've got a lot of new viewers, Kevin. Between the live stream on the Kevin Shipp YouTube channel, where we've got over 180 people watching, and the various channels from Crowdsource the Truth, we've got almost 600 people watching. If any of those people haven't seen Kevin before, you can visit fortheloveoffreedom.net. That's Kevin's home on the internet. It's his main webpage. He's got his daily ship brief there, and he's sharing his ideas. You can also learn more about Kevin's time in the CIA, and that's fascinating to know that Professor Turley was involved in your case. Amazing. People can read all about Kevin's struggle with the CIA in his book, From the Company of Shadows, and it's a perfect time to order it now if you haven't read the book, because Christmas is coming up. This fits right under the tree. You could probably even get a big stocking and put it in there. It's an excellent stocking stuffer. So, Kevin, we'll be back in just under 15 minutes on patreon.com/Kevin_Shipp. Patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. And for the viewers who've recently expressed some technical dissatisfactions, or for whatever reason, if they're not happy with Patreon, both Kevin and I are on Subscribestar as well. You can find Kevin there, subscribestar.com/Kevin-Shipp. And don't forget, Shipp is spelled with 2 P's. Subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth. We'll be back in just 15 minutes with Diana West. You don't want to miss that show. We'll see everybody there.